How to tell scheme versus talent WRs in fantasy football. Imagine you're watching a game and trying to figure out why a wide receiver is putting up big numbers. Is it because of the system they play in, or because they truly have the skills to dominate? That's the core of understanding scheme versus talent wide receivers in fantasy football. It's a skill that can help you pick players who will keep producing no matter what changes happen on their team. First, look at how often they are targeted. Scheme wide receivers usually see a lot of targets because the offense is built around getting them the ball. They're often the go-to options in the passing game, especially if the team runs a pass-heavy offense. But just because they get a lot of targets does not mean they are talented. Talent wide receivers might not have the highest target share, but they turn their opportunities into big plays, yards after catch, and receptions at a high rate. Next, consider how they perform when the team changes coaches or quarterbacks. Talent wide receivers tend to keep producing because their skills are what make them good. Scheme wide receivers might see their numbers drop if the offense shifts to a run-first approach or if the quarterback changes. If a receiver's production drops significantly when the system or quarterback changes, it's a sign they're relying more on the scheme than their skills. Another way to tell them apart is by looking at their big plays and touchdowns. Scheme wide receivers often relying on long receptions or touchdowns that come from designed plays or specific coverage mismatches. Talent wide receivers tend to produce steady yardage and receptions, giving them a more reliable floor. If a receiver's fantasy points come mostly from a few big plays or touchdowns, they might be more scheme dependent. Route running and separation skills are also key. Talent wide receivers can beat defenders on their own, getting open without relying on the play design. Scheme receivers may depend more on the offense creating space or drawing coverage away from them. If a receiver consistently gets open in tight coverage, that's a sign of talent. Opportunity versus efficiency is another factor. Scheme wide receivers often have high target counts but lower yards per target or catch rates. Talent receivers might have fewer targets but higher yards per reception and catch percentage. This shows they make the most of their opportunities. Finally, look at the supporting cast. If a receiver's numbers are inflated because their teammates are injured or weak, it could mean they're benefiting from a lack of options rather than their own talent. In the end, identifying talent wide receivers means looking for players who can produce regardless of the system or team changes. Scheme players can be valuable but come with more risk if their situation changes. For example, a receiver who shined in a pass-heavy offense but moves to a run-focused team might see a big drop in fantasy points. But a player who keeps producing across different teams or coaches likely has the skills to stay relevant. Knowing these differences helps you draft smarter and avoid overpaying for players who are only good because of their situation. It's all about finding those who can sustain their production no matter what.